Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of History Revealed. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a woman named Victoria Claflin, or better known today as Victoria Woodhull. Victoria California Claflin was born in 1838 in Homer, Ohio, and she was the seventh of 10 children. And she was actually born into a pretty poor family. In fact, her father was a con man. Yes, he was considered a con man. And he actually hailed from this impoverished, Massachusetts-based Scots-American family. So, kind of interesting. Victoria did, in fact, have a wonderful relationship with the last daughter who was born. Her name was Tennessee. She was 7 years Victoria's junior. And they called her Tenny for short, and she'll come up a little bit later in this story. So from an early age, Victoria actually claimed she was a clairvoyant and that she had special fortune-telling powers and abilities. And that actually proved a pretty valuable source of income for the family because, again, they were a pretty poor family. And they had a traveling medicine show where they would sell patent medicines. And so Victoria, within the show, would offer her fortune-telling abilities for a fee. So she actually thought that she was guided by spirits and she felt she was protected by them, and that at times these spirits would actually let her see this utopian world in heaven that was 100% different than the world that she was living in then. So very, very interesting. Apparently her father was pretty brutal because at the age of 15, in 1853, Victoria wanted to escape her father's brutality, and in doing so, she eloped with a man named Canning Woodhull, who actually himself was a patent medicine salesman, so no doubt they met on that circuit. And he also claimed to be a doctor. But really what he was an alcoholic and a womanizer. And when Victoria found that out, she was devastated, of course, and she often had to work outside to bring money in just to support the family. So after 11 years of marriage, she put up with that. She said enough is enough. Victoria divorced Canning in 1864. But then she met a man named Colonel James Harvey Blood. And he and Victoria were actually said to have married in 1866. Although historians actually cannot find any kind of marriage record or any document really to prove that this was true. But Victoria had, within her lifetime, some firsts to her name. She was the first woman to own a brokerage firm. Actually, it was her and her sister, Tenny. And Woodhull actually worked under the assumption that, quote, a woman's ability to earn money is better protection against the tyranny and brutality of men than her ability to vote. That's a pretty powerful statement right there. Victoria was also the first woman to start a weekly newspaper, along with her sister, of course. And she was an advocate for women's rights. But here is the fact of why Victoria is pretty well known today. She was the first woman to run for president. That's right, she announced her candidacy in 1871, and of course it would be 50 years later before women could vote. But here's the interesting fact. There was no law preventing women from running for office at this time, so she went all in. And she was nominated for president of the United States by a newly formed Equal Rights Party in 1872. And of course it was ratified, so her nomination was ratified in that same year. And they also actually nominated Frederick Douglass, the former slave and abolitionist leader, as Woodhull's vice president. but he unfortunately never acknowledged the nomination. Darn. Now, there's a lot of historians, of course, who will argue that Victoria Woodhull's candidacy was even accurate, can even be, considered a real candidacy, because, of course, she was younger than the constitutionally mandated age of 35. She was a woman, of course. At that time, it was understood that there would be no way that women would hold offices, especially the highest in the land of the United States. She did not receive any electoral or popular votes. There were some 2,000 scattered votes, but record indicates that historians aren't exactly sure if those votes were really for her. And some of Woodhull's contemporaries, believed that as a woman, she was not considered a full citizen, and to be named president and elected president of the United States, you have to be, of course, a full American citizen. So that's a whole other argument in itself. Perhaps another episode. But the Constitution required that the president, of course, be a citizen, so she was essentially excluded from the office. She was not elected president in 1872, as we know. So after the election, 5 years later, the now bankrupt Victoria and her sister Tenny left to start a new life in England. So they left the States for Europe. Victoria died at the age of 88 in 1927. And I will leave you with one last quote from her. Victoria Woodhull is known to have said, quote, "Rude contact with facts chased my visions and dreams quickly away, and in their stead I beheld the horrors, the corruption, the evils, and hypocrisy of society, and as I stood among them, a young wife, a great wail of agony went out from my soul." Ooh, kind of eerie. Good quote. All right, everyone, that does it for another episode of History Revealed. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked the video, of course, please just give it a thumbs up, or better yet, hit that subscribe button. And until I see you all next time, take care. Bye now.